Good evening. I'm going to call to order this meeting of the Wendell Town Board of Commissioners. Welcome. Thank you for your patience. We had some technical difficulties tonight getting started. We're going to be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Police Chief Bill Carter.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chief. Our invocation tonight from the Wendell Council of Churches, we're going to hear from Errol Briggerman from Wendell Baptist Church. Good evening, Mr. Briggerman.
Good evening.
Thank you for being with us tonight.
All right. I miss coming to the city hall meetings. I'm sure we'll get through this and we'll get to do it again.
Well, we miss seeing you too.
Yes. If I can just take a couple minutes, a lot of the churches here in town are starting to come back together. We have started. We've got a couple of small groups that are meeting at the church, like Bible studies. Our church is back open on Sunday morning. We're having child care, and like most of the other churches, we're all just kind of working through this and just appreciate everything that our city's doing to help get us all through this. So, okay, let us pray. Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you, Lord, for our city council. Thank you, Lord, for all our policemen and firemen within our city who protect us and help us through this pandemic that we're in. We just know, Lord, that you have control of this. We just ask tonight that all the decisions that our council has to make, Lord, reflects you. We just pray for our city. We just pray for its health. We just pray that our schools can get back under just full, everybody gets to go back to school. I know the kids are missing out on something that's just so important to them. We just pray, Lord, that as we continue throughout this year, that we'll all get closer to you, and that, Lord, you will see us through this, and we just ask for all these things in your blessed name. Amen.
Thank you, Errol.
You're welcome.
Are there any adjustments to the agenda? If not, do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Commissioner Joyner?
Aye.
Commissioner Boyette?
Aye.
Commissioner DeLoach?
Aye.
Commissioner Polaski?
Aye.
Commissioner Lutz?
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. Let's move to our public comment period. As always, the public comment has been provided in advance of the meeting. The public had the opportunity to submit written comments to the town clerk, or were able to submit a request to participate via calling in the conference by emailing their name, address, and phone number to the clerk by this past Friday, April 9th at 5 p.m. As always, you have 3 minutes to speak. Again, no one has signed up. I'll urge you to please sign up if you have something you'd like to share with the town board and participate in the public comment process. All right, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
All right, Commissioner Joyner?
Aye.
Commissioner Boyette?
Aye.
Commissioner DeLoach?
Aye.
Commissioner Polaski?
Aye.
And Commissioner Lutz?
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. There are no recognitions and reports tonight. We'll move right on into our public hearings. The public comment process for our public hearings has been provided in advance of the meeting. The public had the opportunity to submit written comments to the town clerk, or were able to submit a request to participate via calling in the conference by emailing their name, address, and phone number to the clerk by this past Friday, April 9th at 5 p.m. The clerk will unmute everyone who's requested to speak in the order their requests were received. You have 5 minutes to speak. Note that the town board will take action on these public hearings at the April 26, 2021 town board meeting according to North Carolina General Statute. And after this meeting tonight, the public has 24 hours to continue to submit public comment in form of writing to the town clerk. The first one, item 5A, is a public hearing on a rezoning request for 3340 Wendell Boulevard from neighborhood center to downtown mixed use. Mr. Jones.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the board.
Good evening.
Tonight, the specific action requested is to hold a public hearing on the proposed rezoning request. The decision for this item would be considered on Monday, April 26th. The applicant is requesting to rezone a parcel located at the southwest corner of Wendell Boulevard and Magnolia Street from neighborhood center to downtown mixed use. This rezoning was submitted in conjunction with an application to rezone the parcel just south of it to 17 Magnolia Street. The applicant has indicated that there is no significant changes that would be made to the property at this time. This is a traditional rezoning, meaning that this is not a conditional use rezoning, it's a straight rezoning, and it allows for all permitted uses within the DMX zoning district. At this time, again, it's unclear to what the future of this property will be. Some property information, current zoning, again, neighborhood center. Requested zoning, downtown mixed use. It's about 0.6 acres. The current land use is residential. Proposed land use, residential at this time. The property owner and applicant is Mr. Danny Jeffries. Surrounding this property to the north, institutional school. It's a neighborhood center. South is residential. East is commercial at DMX. And then west is residential, neighborhood center. As you can see on the map, this parcel is right along Wendell Boulevard at that corner. Staff thought it'd be prudent to kind of describe some characteristics of the DMX zoning district. Redevelopment and expansion of traditional downtown area. Buildings mixed vertically with street level commercial and upper level residential or commercial uses. Higher densities for residential development. Facilities for pedestrian activity, vibrancy associated with infrastructure, for example, sidewalks, pedestrian scale lightings, projection signs, things you would typically see in a downtown setting. As we know, downtowns generally are destinations, hubs of activities, diverse cross-section of residents, businesses, cultural amenities, education, and employment. Staff wanted to provide some information about what could possibly go there. Townhomes, apartments, and commercial. As you can see, the setbacks kind of talk to the building's orientation. So, in a downtown setting, the building's orientation would generally be up to the street. It's also important to note that anytime we do commercial development, multifamily development, design standards would be in place. It's Chapter 5 of the UDO. The environmental impacts of this site, there are none, but important to note that there are some buffers that would be in place for non-residential and multifamily, a Type C buffer, which requires one tree every 40 feet and a shrub every 6 feet. Transportation, if development occurs, the developer must meet the future requirements of a Main Street residential cross-section along Magnolia Street only. This includes sidewalks and street trees. New structures in the DMX zoning district must either provide off-street parking or provide a fee in lieu. On-street parking is part of the Main Street residential cross-section. Comprehensive plan. The Wendell Comprehensive Plan defines this area as S6 infill redevelopment sector. This generally says that this area is perfect for redevelopment. The utilities are already in place, appropriate uses, as you can see, multifamily commercial uses as well. Village Town Center, which this area is in, mixed-use activity centers, employment and commercial uses, location for regional commercial and employment development, as well as higher density housing. Staff wanted to note here, while the expansion of DMX zoning district is not defined in the current comprehensive plan, the framework does provide some guidance on how large a village town center should be. The current proposal is consistent with the framework plan. However, it is important to note that staff is currently updating the comprehensive plan, as you all know. Here's the framework. As you can see, this, let me get to it. This is where subject property is. So it's well in the middle of the Village Town Center district. Planning Board voted unanimously. As part of the statement of comprehensive plan consistency and reasonableness, the requested zoning map amendment is consistent with the recommended uses outlined in the Wendell Comprehensive Plan for S6 sector and Village Town Center, and is reasonable to be consistent with adjacent zoning districts. Staff also provided some comments here. The rezoning request at this location, while not proposing any change in use today, is an appropriate place for redevelopment. The parcel is located adjacent to the DMX zoning district already. The parcel is located within a National Register Historic District. The rezoning of this property to DMX could allow for future commercial, multifamily residential, or mixed-use development, as we discussed earlier. Because of its proximity to non-residential uses along Wendell Boulevard, these options could be appropriate for the site. However, an increase in density or intensity may generate additional traffic impacts along Wendell Boulevard. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, let's open the public hearing, and are there any questions from the board? Commissioner Boyette.
You say that rezoning it to DMX would allow for some commercial, light industrial, multifamily, things like that. And so I'm taking that to mean that those would not be allowed under neighborhood center.
Some of them would be allowed. The intensity is what differentiates the two zoning districts.
So what would be the biggest differences between these two zonings?
Multifamily,
Multifamily.
commercial,
Okay.
commercial.
All right. And does the applicant understand that the comprehensive plan being updated and looked at could have an effect if they don't have an immediate plan here, that it could necessitate them having to come back again, perhaps?
The applicant, Mr. Danny Jeffries, has not been part of the conversations. Sam Davis has been the lead point of contact on the conversations.
Okay, does Sam Davis understand?
Mr. Davis understands.
Okay.
Does the applicant have anything they'd like to add? I think the applicant's with us.
Sam, do you have anything you'd like to add? Mr. Davis, can you hear me?
Hello?
Hello?
Yes, ma'am. I couldn't understand what the gentleman in the red shirt was saying, what his question was, if that's what you were asking me to add on to.
Well, I mainly just we wanted to give you an opportunity to address the board and present anything to the board you thought would be applicable to your application for the change in zoning. If you have
Okay, well,
anything
I
you wanna
certainly
say.
appreciate y'all letting me come in this evening and talk. You know, where we are at the property just south of the Wendell Boulevard, the one y'all were just talking about at 217 Magnolia, is we were looking to do something different. I think we can all agree that house that's there is not in great shape, and it's kind of an eyesore to the area, especially coming into downtown. We do have, you know, some ideas for a minor commercial type use, as well as potentially doing multifamily on the property. And that DMX zoning that we're applying for is one that could do either one. And Danny Jeffries, in speaking with him, was interested in, you know, getting his zoning changed, which would create that whole corner with the same zoning. But that's really just where we are with it right now. Looking to, you know, this is kind of step one. And then, you know, once we see how this turns out, we go from there.
All right, thank you. Anything else from the board?
I'll go ahead and make a comment now. Thank you for joining us tonight, sir. I appreciate it. I guess I'll just say off the bat, I'm not opposed to density, and I'm not necessarily opposed to rezoning as well. I will say that we've all individually had conversations regarding the comp plan with town staff. We are in the process of changing that, and I do envision this area being a part of that DMX zoning. I guess, and I'm speaking for myself, I guess we just have more questions about the potential and the possibility. I do realize that this is a straight rezoning request. My 2 cents would be, again, that I'm not opposed to the rezoning as much as I'm opposed to the timing of it based on our discussion and reworking of the comp plan itself. You know, it's a big undertaking that we're doing. Town staff's put a lot of time and effort and obviously money into doing it. So I just want to make sure that, you know, we are creating a plan for the entire downtown and not just specific parcels necessarily. But anyway, that's my 2 cents at this time, and I felt like it was appropriate to go ahead and mention it on the first parcel, because it sounds like that the conversation has been between the two, and correct me if I'm wrong, but two parcels together, even though they're separate as far as the conversation goes.
Thank you. Anything else from the board?
I have one thing, Mayor. Yeah, I'd just like to add to that. Any kind of rezoning we're doing at this point, with the comp plan coming up, and like Commissioner DeLoach said, I'm not against any kind of rezoning. I don't feel like that's so far out of place, but you know, to do a section like this within the area, it would be a little bit nicer, at least to know kind of you know what is coming there. And I know that's not the proportion of this, but when we're doing a big plan, and in my mind, I consider the downtown area, along with a couple other areas, to be very important areas. Having a greater idea of the overall vision that you would, this potential for these two lots would be helpful, and kind of seeing whether we feel like it fits more into that DMX category or neighborhood center category. That's all.
Anything else from the board?
I don't know that we'll get that level of clarity, but in echoing Dr. Lutz and Commissioner DeLoach, the timing piece for me, impacts my decision on this one. If I had a better understanding of what we were putting there, I completely agree that it likely is DMX, but it's also a sensitive area to try to convert to the DMX, and we, you know, you have other entities around it. If I just had a better understanding of what the end goal was, but, you know, two lots off of Wendell Boulevard and Wendell Falls Parkway, which I think are two thoroughfares. That's all I have to say.
I don't know that I have that much heartburn over it. I mean, it seems like the applicant understands that, you know, it could change with the comprehensive plan. You know, I don't know exactly, you know, what the applicant has planned for this or the other parcel that we'll be talking about in just a minute, but I mean, I agree we don't have the comprehensive plan completely reevaluated at this time, but that's not really the applicant's issue. It's not their, I hate to say it this way, it's not their problem.
Yeah.
And I don't think that DMX is outside, is way outside of what, you know, anyone could expect there. If you'd asked me, you know, 2 weeks ago and pointed at that lot and said, hey, what's it zoned? I could have probably gone either way, honestly. You know, because I don't have the zoning map memorized. Hearing the applicant say light commercial and multifamily, I will, and I've said it many times, I'm a big fan of higher density in downtown. I think if we're going to have high density, that's the best place for it. So it doesn't give me any heartburn at all. And I think with the applicant understanding that this may change in the future, not necessarily to their benefit, and they're still willing to do this, then I don't really have a problem with it.
Is that it from the board? All right, we'll close the public hearing subject to the receipt of comments from, for 24 hours. To the next one. Excuse me. Item 5B is a public hearing on a rezoning request for 217 Magnolia Street from residential 3 to downtown mixed use. Mr. Jones.
Thank you. Again, we are in the same vicinity. We're asking that the board hold a public hearing on the proposed rezoning request. The decision will be considered on Monday, April 26th. The applicant is requesting to rezone a parcel located on the west side of Magnolia Street, just south of Wendell Boulevard, from R3, Residential 3, to DMX, Downtown Mixed Use. Again, this rezoning was submitted in conjunction with the rezoning at 3340 Wendell Boulevard. The applicant intends to redevelop this property. However, at this time, staff has not received any plans or clarity on the final plan for the property owner. The property owner has indicated in the rezoning application that commercial or multifamily are being considered. This is a traditional rezoning again, meaning that this is not a conditional rezoning, and all allowed uses within the DMX zoning district are permitted. Property information, current zoning, residential 3, requested zoning, downtown mixed use, 0.71 acres. Current land use is residential. Proposed land use, per the application, commercial or multifamily residential. Surrounding properties to the north, it's residential. To the south, residential. To the east, residential. To the west, residential. Characteristics of the downtown mixed-use zoning district: redevelopment and expansion of the traditional downtown area. Buildings mixed vertically with street-level commercial and upper-level residential commercial uses. Again, higher densities of residential development. Facilitates pedestrian activity, vibrancy associated with infrastructure. Destination or hub of activity, creating an experience that attracts a regional market. Again, diverse cross-section of residents, businesses, cultural amenities, education, and employment. You'll see the area highlighted in red, just south of the parcel we just discussed. Same chart I showed before, potential uses, townhomes, apartments, commercial. Design standards are still the same. There would be a requirement for commercial multifamily. Environmental, exactly the same as the last agenda item. Transportation is a little bit different. Applicant will be responsible for required upgrades to Magnolia Street, including sidewalks and street trees. Again, this will be the Main Street residential cross-section. New parking structures in the DMX district must provide either off-street parking or fee in lieu. On-street parking is part of the Main Street residential cross-section. This is in the exact same area again. So S6 infill redevelopment sector applies here. Village Town Center applies here. And staff's note is exactly the same. Same map I showed earlier. The planning board voted unanimously to recommend approval for this requested zoning map amendment. Statement of plan, comprehensive plan consistency and reasonableness. The requested zoning map amendment is consistent with the recommended uses outlined in the Wendell comprehensive plan for the S6 sector and the Village Town Center, and is reasonable to be consistent with the adjacent zoning districts. Staff comments are a little bit different on this one. The proposed rezoning request is unique in the sense that it could expand a small geographically targeted zoning district. The board kind of just talked about that. The DMX is approximately 15 blocks and is primarily commercial. The intent of this district is to create a vibrant, pedestrian-oriented downtown setting. The proposed site is unique due to the residential nature of the surrounding area. If the proposed parcel were rezoned to DMX and a commercial building were constructed, it could change the residential character of the existing neighborhood. The design guidelines for a commercial building in the DMX district are meant to promote a pedestrian-oriented environment. The comprehensive plan does support a commercial use in this proposed site, and the DMX district is within close proximity, as you all know. If it's rezoned, the property owner would have several options. Those options range from townhomes to a 4-story commercial building. Commissioner Boyette, to answer your question, the difference between the question you had at the last agenda item, between residential 3 and downtown mixed use is the intensity of the uses. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, let's open the public hearing. Any questions from the board or comments?
Commissioner DeLoach, this comment is pretty much the same for me on this one. This is slightly different, obviously, because it's not right on Wendell Boulevard, but and the home that there is certainly not in keeping with the surroundings. And I appreciate what they're trying to do, I really do, but for me, it's a timing issue as far as the comp plan goes.
Anyone else? Does the applicant wish to be heard?
Again, thanks again for letting me speak. Really, it's just the same thing as last time. I was having a hard time understanding a couple of the commissioner's comments just a second ago. But when we do talk about intent, you know, it's not going to be, you know, we're not looking for anything 4 stories tall. We're looking for a small commercial possibility. We have looked at the UDO restrictions, and, you know, as we get moving in there and as we apply for a site plan, if this all works out, you know, that may be what changes our direction. That is our initial intent, is a small commercial building. But if those options do become not feasible for us, then the town, you know, duplex or triplex is what we'd be looking at. So I don't know if that answers some of the questions on intent, but I was hoping to clear that up just because I was having a hard time understanding some of the comments a second ago.
Anything else from the board?
Just to make sure I heard that correctly, so small commercial or duplexes or triplexes?
Mr. Davis, Commissioner Joyner asked a question related to the intent. He wanted to make sure he heard you correctly. Small commercial duplexes, duplex or triplex is your intent? And that's a question.
Yes, that's correct. Yes, sir, that's correct.
Thank you.
Anything else from the board? All right, we'll close the public hearing subject to the receipt of comments for the next 24 hours. Item 5C is a public hearing on the zoning text amendment to comply with Chapter 160D of the North Carolina General Statutes.
Good evening again. Specific action requested on this item. Hold a public hearing on the proposed zoning text amendments to comply with Chapter 160D of the North Carolina General Statutes. This decision will be considered Monday, April 26th. Quick summary, as we all know, we've gone through this before. This is the third batch of the 160D updates. Chapter 160D of the North Carolina General Statutes is a new chapter that consolidates current city and county enabling legislation for development regulations into a single unified chapter. Puts into a logical organization, does not make any major policy changes or shifts. However, it does provide many clarifying amendments and consensus reforms. So for the third round of proposed text amendments, it pertains to land use administration, zoning ordinances, and development ordinances. At the last batch 2, let me reference batch 2, we talked about notices of violation. So as we were going through making these updates, we recognized that notices of violation were in a different chapter as well. They were with stormwater. We just didn't pick it up, so we are now picking it up. The same thing we talked about before, must deliver to the permittee landowner. If different, administrator has to certify the notice of violation for the file. Same thing we did last time. If inspecting, must enter the premises during reasonable hours upon presenting credentials, must have consent of the property owner or an administrative search warrant to inspect the areas not open to the public. For revocation of development approval, must follow the same process as was used for approving that development approval. Eliminating conditional use district zoning. So currently we have conditional use district zoning on the map. We've already gotten rid of all the terminology. We did that with batch 1, but however, the map still shows conditional use districts. So this amendment is purely around amending the map. The conditional use districts will go to conditional districts. That's it. Conform subdivision performance guarantee requirements with statutory standards. So we've gone over the notices of violation. I wanted to kind of delve into the inspections just a little bit. So currently within the UDO, the related inspections that would be impacted here would be entering a manufactured home park, stormwater, and floodplain development. And all we're doing is adding some language right here. Must enter the premises during reasonable hours upon presenting credentials, must have consent of the premises owner or an administrative search warrant to inspect areas not open to the public. We had some language in the UDO related to revocation of development approval, but it was inconsistent and the language was incomplete, so we just updated it. We added some very specific language stating the reason for revocation and following the same process. So we wanted to be clear about that. Again, the conditional use district zoning, this pertains to the map itself, getting rid of the conditional use district zoning on the map and just changing it to the conditional districts. It's important to note here that the approved conditions associated with the conditional use district do not change. It just transfers to a conditional district. Conform subdivision performance guarantee requirements with statutory standards. In section 1717 of the UDO, it deals with our guarantees and warranties. So we had to add some language. First, we changed, instead of performance guarantee, instead of financial guarantee, we changed it to performance guarantee. We had to add the duration of 1 year, unless the scope of work necessitates longer. Clarify that performance guarantees are for completion of improvements, not for repairs or maintenance. Warranties are only permitted in stormwater improvements. And we also clarified those who may claim rights under any performance guarantee. That's the town, that's the bank, and that is the developer. The town and the bank and the developer. The planning board voted unanimously at their last meeting to approve the text amendments. Statement of plan consistency. The proposed ordinance amendment is consistent with the comprehensive plan since it supports key principle number 9, making development decisions predictable, fair, and cost-effective. Staff recommendation here. Staff recommends approval because it's required. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, let's open the public hearing. Any questions from the board? Comments? All right, we'll close the public hearing subject to the receipt of comments for the next 24 hours. Item 6A is a motion on the Wendell Historical Museum and supplemental funding request. Mr. Collins.
So this is just picking up where the board left off last time. The board received a presentation and request from the Wendell Historical Society. Wendell Historical Society. The presentation dealt with the exhibits that they were preparing to construct for the museum, and also reported out on the fundraising drive seeking to raise $150,000 and seeking at least 2 donors at the $25,000 level, one of which in their thoughts was the town of Wendell. Staff kind of reminded how we got to this point, it being town-owned property. Staff bought the building, which they have leased from the town to use for a museum. Financially, outside of that capital investment, operating standpoint, the town is not responsible for the operation of the museum or staffing of the museum, any of the maintenance or utilities for the property. Staff does provide occasional mowing assistance as it's easier since our staff is there mowing the adjoining property. The $500 we provide is currently for the 4th of July event, for a special event, which is actually a smaller price tag than our in-kind staff time and assistance on that event. And so this is just a continuation of that for your discussion and leisure as far as decision. Happy to answer any questions that I'm able to, and turn it back over to the mayor to run the discussion and meeting.
And are there any questions from the board, for the manager?
I don't have any questions, and I may have a comment.
Okay, go ahead.
So I think, obviously, we made a decision as a board to purchase this property and for this purpose. And then initially, when I heard the fundraising goal, I thought it was a bit advantageous from the private fundraising aspect. And I know that I called and spoke with a member of their historic society. They said today that they're up to $90,000 in what they've raised among themselves, which gives me a little bit of solace in the fact that appropriating $25,000 would really get this closer to the goal in a time where we're seeing so much growth and lots of changes in downtown, discussing how things will redevelop. I think it's important that we take an opportunity to get this done correctly the first time. It's certainly not, and I'll put this out there, and I believe the mayor will agree with me on this, that in no way envision the town getting in the habit of nonprofits and you know, continuing to fund things of the operations side, but I do want it to be done correctly and done well the first time, partially because I believe they can go get other funding other places if they're set up well out of the gate. Those would be my comments, and I'm happy to make a motion to that effect at any point. I know there was conversation around funds, and my motion was simply going to be to instruct staff to where they found best appropriate funds. I know they are looking at a variety of options.
Okay. Does anyone else have any comments they'd like to make?
I have a question and comment, and I guess this is for Manager Collins. As far as, is it town, this money would come from our general fund, is that correct?
So it's not appropriated in the current budget. If we have any form of budget shortfall, and we appropriated funds from fund balance reserve to balance the budget last year to meet capital needs. So if our revenues are high and expenses are lower, that reduces the amount that comes in from general fund reserves. And the $25,000 is probably within that savings amount. So yes, it would come from general fund reserve. However, the general fund reserve amount would still be within the anticipated appropriated amount, most likely. But we would work that out with the final end-of-year budget amendment that comes before in June, and could arrange that amount by the $25,000 or whatever number the board decides if so directed.
All right, does that answer your question?
Yes, ma'am.
Are there any other questions or comments? I just have a comment. I'm very excited about the museum. I've served on the Historical Society board for several years. I just rolled off of it in December. So I've been on it for several years during the planning of some of these things. But I will say this, I don't want us to get into the habit of having to be the go-to for operational needs for any nonprofits in Wendell. And I don't think we can treat the Historical Society any differently than we can any other. I mean, you could look in two directions from where I'm sitting right now, and there are two others. And everybody does great work. Everybody does great things, but I think we need to be very careful that we don't get into that business. Maybe one time, you know, yes, it'll probably be okay, but I think we just need to be very guarded about that and remember what our job is. Our job is to provide municipal services. So that's my comment. Commissioner Joyner, I think you made a motion. Could you restate your motion, please?
Just a motion to instruct staff to appropriate the funds as they see
Okay, at their
leisure.
Okay, so we have a motion to instruct staff to appropriate the funds as they are able to do that. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, Commissioner Joyner,
Aye.
Commissioner Boyette,
Aye.
Commissioner DeLoach,
Aye.
Commissioner Tarnaski,
Aye.
and Commissioner Lutz.
Aye.
All right, wonderful. That passes unanimously. Item 6B is the adoption of the 2021 Town of Wendell Strategic Plan. Mr. Collins.
Y'all know I get excited about plans and strategic plans and helping the board and the community's vision get tied to resources, and that's really what this is about when you talk about strategic planning. The original draft of the plan, after working with y'all since last fall and getting comment back, was presented in March 8th. I just mentioned that purpose to really align resources to help close the gap between where we are today and what your vision is for the community tomorrow. And so this is that guidance that informs the next two budget processes for the town. And the departments, by hearing your vision, make sure that their department requests and initiatives are in alignment and moving in that direction. And that's where a town that has that commitment of its elected body and its staff can really advance moving forward. And so that's what strategic planning does. First strategic plan was this past 2 years. A lot of good goal movement on those items. As a reminder, there are 5 goal areas within the plan that really cover the broad scope of the municipal services that towns provide. Everything from development and economic vitality and character, public safety, neighborhood improvement, infrastructure, transportation, having a safe environment. Can't forget parks, recreation, and special events. And then not the least, but how the town organization works and the staff that do that work. There were a broad range of goals and initiatives put forward in the draft plan. We originally received input from the board back in September, as I mentioned. The final plan is attached for your consideration. Looking for adoption tonight. Then that adopted plan would be included in the budget document. So it's a living document that gets reported out, as you know, in monthly reports, as well as more detailed reports when you get to your retreats, as usual. So happy to answer any questions, make any changes tonight, or get a motion to move forward.
All right, any questions for the manager and the board?
I just want to thank the staff and everybody's hard work on this plan. It's nice every now and then to kind of sit back and look at your goals and where you're going, and just to kind of, I always enjoy as a group when we're kind of talking about these plans and going forward. So I'll be happy to make a motion. I'll go ahead and make a motion to adopt the 2021 Town of Wendell Strategic Plan.
All right, so we have a motion to adopt the 2021 Town of Wendell Strategic Plan. I have a quick comment I want to make. I'm a list maker by trade. So to me, this is just a gigantic list of all the things that we would like to do, and it's great, it's fun, it's very exciting to see it all in one place and in a concise spot where I can look at it, and it's really fun to see these things happening as we talk about them, and then of course you can check it off if you're so inclined. So, all right, so we have a motion to adopt the strategic plan. Is there any discussion on the motion? Commissioner Joyner,
Aye.
Commissioner Boyette,
Aye.
Commissioner DeLoach,
Aye.
Commissioner Tarnaski,
Aye.
and Commissioner Lutz.
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. Item 6C is the acceptance of site-specific master plan for the Hollybrook Park property located at 1201 South Hollybrook Road and the authorization of filling the Parks and Recreation Trust Fund grant. Filing, I'm sorry, I read that wrong.
Had to get some help.
Parks
I
and
don't make it to
Recreation.
enough board meetings anymore to run any of this stuff anymore. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Commissioners. I'm here tonight seeking approval for the Hollybrook Park property site-specific master plan, and also for the authority to submit for the part of grant application, which is due May the 3rd. So the Hollybrook Road neighborhood park site-specific master plan identifies an appropriate mix of passive and athletic uses to meet current recreation needs in the area, preserve existing trees where possible, and add new recreational facilities to a broad range of users using recommendations from our 2019 comprehensive master plan that we had done for us by McGill and Associates. The Hollybrook Park property is located at 1201 South Hollybrook Road and is expected to complete design and begin construction by spring of 2022. At build-out, the neighborhood park would include natural and paved trails, picnic pavilion with restrooms, an ADA-accessible playground, adventure play area, 2 full basketball courts, 4 pickleball courts, traditional games courts, which would be, at this point, it's probably looking like it's going to be cornhole. Exercise stations that would be along the paved walking trail, and also a multi-purpose field to be used in open space. Along with the site development infrastructure and a parking lot, that total cost for that project for both phases would be $1.9 million. The site-specific master plan was presented to the board back in March 8th. Following that meeting, staff did host a public meeting as well as presented to 2 civic groups to get some of their input on this design. Along with the public meeting, which we did virtually, we also had an online survey done in conjunction with that public meeting, where people were allowed to give their input on this project as well. The virtual meeting featured a plan presented by myself with help from Megan Howard and Stephanie Smith and Brian Coates. It definitely was a team effort, and they helped me out a lot, and I really appreciated all their help with it, because there's no way I would have done it by myself. We were proud to say that we had 39 virtual participants. That means they either called in or did log in and watched it online, which is a really good number for a public meeting. And also the survey reached out to 227 people participating in that, which is an excellent number for a survey for a town this size. And so the public comments were very positive about the park. The main thing that came up during that meeting was people were very concerned with the connectivity. They wanted to be able to get to this park easily and make it a very easily walkable park. And also with that survey, I think that was included in your packet. If you have any questions about that survey, I can definitely answer any of those for you as well tonight. And on to the second part of that is the North Carolina Parks and Recreation Trust Fund. That is a state-funded grant program for land acquisition and development of parks. Recipients use the grants to acquire land and or to develop park and recreational projects, which is what we'll be doing with that. The Hollybrook Park site-specific master plan does provide 10 points towards our Wendell Part-F application, which is a points-driven grant. And I will be asking for $300,000 worth of grant money from the state of North Carolina towards this project, like I said before, which would be due by May the 3rd. We did have an early new this year, as you are allowed to submit a rough draft, and it was submitted April the 1st, and they did get back to me on Friday with some very minor changes. They loved the grant. They thought it was going to score well, and they were really happy with it, so that's good. If there are any questions?
Any questions or comments for Mr. Polaski?
Comment, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Just want to thank Jeff and staff for really diving into this one headstrong. And last time getting that public feedback is definitely cool to see. Also that it mimics the larger townwide Parks and Rec survey that we did earlier. It's like good confirmation data also, and important to me. My 3-year-old who will be 4 in 2 days, got to participate in her first public meeting, and is excited about the pictures of what she's imagining this new park to be. Certainly appreciate your hard work, even after having put together a good plan last time, and happy to make a motion at any point.
Any other comments from the board?
Yes. I would like to thank staff for all their hard work on this. I think this is an area that definitely needed a park. There are several other areas in town that also need parks, and I think this will serve as a good model for us to sort of export these neighborhood parks out around town as town grows. I'm also very appreciative of the opportunities for training that the house on this site has provided for the fire department is already being used for some search and rescue and ventilation training. And so I'll just say thank you on behalf of the fire department for allowing us to do that before it's torn down.
Anyone else?
Thank you. Just going to say that he did, real quick, they did present to Rotary, so we were appreciative for that and able to provide some feedback there. So thank you. I know it was not a singular effort by any means, so appreciate everything that everybody's done.
You know, new parks are very exciting to me. So kind of I try not to have favorite things, and it seems like everything exciting and new becomes my new favorite thing, but parks really are important to our growth. And I'm also very excited and feel really good about the fact that we adopted the park master plan and we're carrying it out. This is the first step towards that. So that wasn't just lip service, and it wasn't just work for everybody to do and us making a big statement that we were going to have these parks and then nothing ever happened. It's not a plan. You know, people love to talk about how towns have plans on shelves. This isn't just a plan on the shelf. We're actually doing that, and I'm very proud of that. So, and I'm excited that we're working towards carrying park facilities all over town.
Yeah.
That's important to me.
The plan is very important because it provided us with 6 of the top 10 things the citizens asked for back in 2019, just in one park.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's very exciting. All right, do we have a motion?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I make a motion to approve the Parks Master Plan part of application.
Did you also say and authorize the submission of the application?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Okay. So we have a motion to approve the Hollybrook Park property site master plan and authorize the submission of the application for Parks and Rec Trust Fund funding. Is there any discussion on the motion?
No.
All right. Commissioner Joyner?
Aye.
Commissioner Boyette?
Aye.
Commissioner DeLoach?
Aye.
Commissioner Polaski?
Aye.
And Commissioner Lutz?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
That passes. That's very exciting. All right, item 7, other business, update on board committees by town board members. Let's hear from Mayor Pro Tem John Boyette on the Technical Review Committee.
Oh, yeah, that's me. Circle back to me, Mayor, I'm sorry.
Okay, let's go to the Wendell Volunteer Fire Department Board of Directors, Commissioner Joyner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Fire Department Board of Directors met last Thursday, and they're still in the wonderful season of budget time. Also, it was pointed out that this is the time of year where everyone likes to begin pulling out the fire pit. It starts to get nice outside, and to be very careful and follow all applicable ordinances when you do that. Commissioner Boyette can elaborate on that with the TRC if you'd like.
Go.
I was unable to make the TRC meeting this month, and I'll have an update for you at the next meeting.
All right. We'll move into our commissioners' reports. Commissioner Joyner.
Nothing tonight, Madam Mayor.
Commissioner Boyette?
Nothing tonight.
Everybody's moved around, so we might be a little out of order. Commissioner DeLoach?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will mention that the Chamber of Commerce banquet is this coming Sunday. They will be selling tickets for that, if anybody would like to attend. They're going to celebrate the local businesses around town. It will begin 5 o'clock. We'll start at the Bearded Bee. They'll finish up over at Universal Chevrolet with an awards program between 6:45, I believe they go until 9 o'clock. So there are a few tickets remaining. If you're interested, check out the Wendell Chamber of Commerce site. And one last thing, I spoke with my friend and fellow Rotarian, Reverend James Lee, today. I do want to wish him a happy birthday. He's been a big part of this community for a long time, First Baptist Church. So happy birthday, Reverend Lee. That's all, Madam Mayor.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Lutz?
No, nothing tonight, ma'am.
And Commissioner Tornaski?
Yes, Mayor. Good evening. I'd like to say Happy Easter to everyone, to the town of Wendell and the staff. It's my favorite time of year. I enjoy the spring and the Easter season. Thank you.
Thank you. Real quickly, I was asked to remind you again about the Wendell's Farmers Market. It starts next month. You can make a commitment to come once or every single time or any number in between. So please join us on those Saturdays. It's a lot of fun. Also, reminder that we are accepting applications for the Town of Wendell Citizen Advisory Boards. There are lots of openings available, so there's a lot that you can consider what you might be interested in participating with. The applications are due by Friday, May 21st, and appointments are going to be made in June at a June Town Board meeting. And anything that you need to know about either of those is on the town website. One more thing, we've had some exciting things happen here tonight. I'm excited about the Wendell Museum and the preservation of our story for future generations. Wendell's only a little over 100 years old, but we do have a story to tell, and it's interesting to share and preserve. So I'm glad to see that happening. And also, I'm excited about the parks. So we've had some fun things happen here tonight. All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So, adjourn.
All right, we're adjourned.